Please get ready for a dictation of transcription number 274 from Sir Kailash Chandra magazine. 5 seconds. Start. The measure before the House is intended to remove some grave deficiencies in our arrangements for the training of technical personnel. At any time, in any country, it would be a matter of very great importance that for the functioning of its industries, there should be technical personnel of satisfactory quality and in adequate numbers. For India, at this stage of her economic development, when the country is making the maximum effort for rapid industrialization with a view to achieving what we call self-sustaining progress, there is nothing more important among the requisites for the success of our plans than this one factor of the availability of suitably trained personnel in sufficient numbers. This deficiency has persisted for some time. It has been brought to our notice by several committees that we should try to persuade the employers to make arrangements for the training of apprentices. The committee, of course, touched the question of institutional training also. Defects are to be removed in the case of both kinds of training, viz. Institutional training and apprentice training. Regarding institutional training, in the course of past 10 years, we have succeeded in making adequate arrangements. We had the experience in the course of the 10th plan, and also, I should say, the second plan of shortage of technical personnel of various grades for certain industries. Therefore, we set up institutions and training centers in order to make up that deficiency, and now we are in a happier situation. In respect of many categories of trained personnel, we have now adequate arrangements for training. In the case of craftsmen, to whom this measure refers primarily, I may just give some recent figure. At the beginning of the 11th 5-year plan, we had facilities at the training centers of the Ministry of Employment and Labour for training only about 10,000 persons, and now at the end of the second 5-year plan, the figure has risen to 42,000. We have projected various steps which will enable us to take this figure up to 1 lakh at the end of 12th plan. Similarly, in the matter of technical education of higher grades also, the requisite facilities are being provided so that we do not anticipate any serious difficulty there. But obviously, training in institutions is incomplete without a certain period of what is called in-plant instruction, which is very necessary. Therefore, it has to be ensured that they get some practical training. Now we have been experiencing certain difficulties in this direction also. We have found difficulty in placing the young men who come out of our institutions in various plants and industrial establishments in order that they may acquire skill by practical training. We have found much greater difficulty regarding the full course of apprenticeship in the case of those who do not go through the institutional training first. Sir, I may explain that there are two aspects of this legislation for the training of apprentices. One is the objective of regulation and enforcement of certain standards so that if a person receives training in one place, he can go to any part of the country for that type of work because there will be the guarantee that he had received training of the requisite standard. That will ensure mobility of trained personnel throughout the country and also ensure that proper standards are being observed in training. The other aspect is that we have to make sure that we are able to provide the industries with a sufficient number of technical personnel of this type. Therefore, the main objective which is sought to be implemented through this legislation is that we lay down the standards or provide for the standards that have to be observed in the course of this training program, and also that the industry has to make arrangements to provide facilities for a certain proportion of its employees being admitted as trainees for apprenticeship. I will now refer to the various clauses of the bill just to explain very briefly the scheme of this proposed legislation. Chapter 2 refers in the first instance to the qualifications for being engaged as an apprentice. The age should not be less than 14 years, and certain standards of education and physical fitness as may be prescribed have to be satisfied. Then the procedure is laid down as to how an apprentice enters into a contract of apprenticeship so that a number of conditions affecting the relationship of the apprentices with the industrial establishment, with the employer, are properly laid down. Apart from these conditions, it deals with various other matters which are referred to in subsequent clauses. Sir, the period of training is also to be prescribed. In the case of those who have passed the trade tests conducted by the Council, the period of apprenticeship shall be determined by the Council, and in the case of other apprentices, this will have to be prescribed. There is a provision which lays down how this contract could not be brought to a close stop.